Does Rachel see a future with Aven? What did Gabby think of Erich's blackface photo? And Bachelor Nation is bored by Zach. Hey guys, and welcome back to another Shared News. We have your Bachelor headlines of the week, but before we get into it, if you're new here, make sure to subscribe to our channel so you never miss out on any future videos. I'm Allison Van Dam, joined today by Kayla Thompson, my girl. And Kayla, we have not spoken on a Shared News panel since the finale. You and I were texting back and forth, watching it live together. But what are your final thoughts now that everything is said and done? Were you surprised? Was this the most dramatic finale ever? Give us your thoughts.
Yeah, first of all, Allie, I'm so happy to be back with you. You know, we're fast friends. So yeah, happy to talk with you today. But yeah, the finale was pretty dramatic. I'm not going to lie. I mean, was it the most dramatic finale ever, Jesse? No, Jesse Palmer, it wasn't. But it was wild. It was a lot. It was exhausting. And I think it left me feeling mixed. I don't know. I have mixed feelings at the end of it, to be honest, but glad that Gabby and Erich are in a good place. I wish them the best, Rachel as well, but time to move on.
Yes, indeed. We got Bachelor in Paradise starting next week. So we're going to kind of try and wrap up exactly what happened on the finale and what people's reactions were to certain parts of it. So diving right in here, during the live finale, we watched as Rachel and Tino's relationship ended. Now, Tino ended up cheating on Rachel by kissing another woman while they were still engaged. And cameras filmed the two of them discussing the cheating and potential confusion and miscommunication during what is called a happy couples weekend, which is certain weekends after the show is wrapped where the couple is trying to maintain or strengthen their relationship. So producers, camera crews were there. We watched all of it. And then Tino and Rachel spoke again during After the Final Rose. And just when audiences thought that Rachel would be leaving the soundstage alone, in walked none other than runner-up Aven. So Aven stood on the side of the stage. Everyone was cheering. And he ended up asking Rachel, "Would you want to get out of here and catch up?" To which Rachel replied, "I would love nothing more." So Kayla, what was your reaction when you saw Aven walk on stage?
Girl, my jaw hit the floor. I was not expecting Aven to walk out there. My first thought was, this man looks so good. He looked so good. He was ready. But honestly, Allison, it was really, at first, it was just flat out awkward. He was just kind of standing there on the side. It was just weird. And then I don't know, after a while, it just started to feel like this was just to hurt Tino, you know? And I don't know if it was a very genuine move. I think it was a produced move to pull Aven out there to kind of like twist the knife a little deeper. And I don't know, with that being said, it kind of just felt icky. I don't know if it like was very genuine. So yeah, that's probably the best
I'm right
I can
there with
say
you.
about it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And a lot of people have been comparing it to the Tyler Hannah Brown situation. Obviously, we watched Jed and Hannah and things after the camera stopped rolling. Tyler came out, they kind of, decided to go on a date, obviously very staged, but that was a moment between the two of them. And this, I am with you, had a different feeling because Tino was sitting there watching it all go down. So now the question that's on everyone's mind is what the future might hold for these two and if they'll actually try and be in a relationship in the real world. So Rachel sat down with E! News to talk about the situation, saying, quote, "He ultimately just told me he wanted to be there as a support system because he knew it was really going to be a really difficult conversation. He's always kind of been my safe space." And when asked if that meant the door was open for a potential future with Aven, she said, "I think so. We'll see." So do we think that Rachel and Aven are actually going to try to have a relationship, or is this just the show's way of giving her a happy ending so she doesn't leave alone and, we don't just like stop watching the show because we don't believe in it anymore?
Yeah, man. I mean, I think one, I'm glad Rachel did kind of clear that up and say like, hey, Aven's intention was just to kind of show up for me because he knew it was going to be tough. Because we have heard her say throughout the season, when I'm upset, Aven is the first person that I want to see, that I want to go, go to. And so that does make a lot of sense to me. And I do like that she cleared the air with that. Do I think that there's a future with them, that they really are going to be trying? I don't know. I felt like even last week when they did, sit down together on the live first half of the finale, it seemed pretty final, that they weren't, they were kind of good with where it was. I don't think there was any kind of door open for anything further. So that's what makes this move that happened on, this finale feel a little produced. But yeah, and I think my other thing about kind of the idea of, oh, we need to give Rachel this happy ending, so let's bring Aven out here. It just sends the message that in order for her to be happy, it has to be with the guy. Like, why can't she just be happy by herself? I don't really get why that can't be the case. So I don't know. That kind of just doesn't really like make me be like, yay. I'm like, so what? Like, Rachel could have totally sat up there as a single woman. She's still single, but you know what I mean? She could have just been like, I'm good. I'm working on myself. I'm trying to figure out exactly what I want moving forward in a partner. And not just be that. We didn't really need Aven, to be honest. But hey, if they are, good luck to them.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. And honestly, it's a very interesting concept to think about, because it would have sent a very different message if she would have sat there with her head held high and say, this is a learning experience. Yeah. I myself really was prioritizing an engagement at the end of the day, like blah, blah, blah. This is what I've learned. Now I know what I'm looking for, as opposed to, needing the man, the shining knight in shining armor to come rescue her, which again, I'm not surprised, but it also points to a topic we've discussed a lot on Shared News, which is The Bachelor is a very antiquated franchise. It's not nearly as up to date or as modern dating as these other, Netflix and streaming service dating shows are. So I guess it makes sense that we gotta leave the women leaving with men and make it all tied up with a bow. But speaking of a woman who has a man, moving on to our other Bachelorette, Gabby, her now fiance, Erich, has made headlines over the last couple weeks when his ex-girlfriend came forward saying he didn't join the show for the right reasons, and for a high school yearbook photo that showed Erich in blackface dressed as Jimi Hendrix. So while the two addressed Erich's, ex-girlfriend coming forward after the final rose, it wasn't until Gabby sat down with People magazine that she spoke out about the photo. So Gabby said, quote, "I was incredibly shocked. I just really had to process my thoughts and then think about how we can grow as a couple and learn from this." Now, Erich was not a part of this interview. It was just Gabby, but we know he did post an apology on Instagram, writing, quote, "I wholeheartedly apologize for the insensitive photo of me in blackface from my high school yearbook that has been circulating. What I thought at the time was a representation of my love for Jimi Hendrix was nothing but ignorance. I was naive to the hurtful implications of my actions to the Black community and those closest to me, and will forever regret my offensive and damaging behavior. I am deeply ashamed by my actions and understand that my apology is only the first step in taking accountability." So, Kayla, I'm curious what you think. Do you think Gabby should be answering for her fiance? I kind of wish he would have been part of that interview, since she didn't know him at that time. That was a long time ago. And here she's trying to create a response on his behalf. Erich had said, this is the first step in many actions. Are we, expecting him to update us on his journey of education, or are we kind of ready to let this one be in the past? Where are you at with this whole thing?
Yeah, no, it's something important to talk about, in my opinion. I think, one, should Gabby be answering for Erich? I don't think that should be on her, at her responsibility. I don't think that should be her responsibility to do so. I don't really understand this whole, leaving Erich out of the kind of post-show press tour. I think they're obviously decided to show them as a happy couple on AFR. Like, I think they can, I think Erich has space to speak for himself. And I think it's disappointing. I think as a Black fan of the show, speaking for the Black fans of the show, it would be nice to know that the show cared enough to allow him to talk about it on AFR. I think there was more than enough time to do so. And I think there was a way to address it without making it some huge, damning thing. I think it was a way for them to step up and prove themselves, because I think the show has to. I think the history of this franchise has shown there's a lot of racial issues. And so with that being said, they have to take action. They have to be more than just defensive. They have to be proactive about these things. And
Mm-hmm.
so, yeah. And then when it comes to Erich, I don't know if I expect him to continue updating us on Instagram about what books he's reading or things he's learning. That would be awesome. But I think more than just the black square of, summer of 2020, I think that felt a little distant to me. Again, as a black person, sometimes it's nice to know that white people do care, because sometimes they don't have to, because we're the minority and they're the majority. So it's good to know that, no, I actually am taking action. And just to hear from his mouth, just to see a video would feel nice, but it's just continuing to feel like an afterthought. And that can be really frustrating. So I don't know. This is kind of not working for me, how they're operating about this. Yeah.
No, I agree. And it felt glossed over, especially if you're going to bring up, the ex-girlfriend coming forward. She even said in her statement, I decided to bring this up, do we believe her or not exactly on the timing? But in her statement, it said, after seeing a recent apology from Erich, which was the one regarding his impersonation of Jimi Hendrix, I was reminded of when he apologized to me. As such, I'm coming forward. So they're inherently linked. There are two major headlines that had been popped up right before AFR. So to talk about one and not the other, I think, in my opinion, is even worse than just glossing over all of it. I don't see how you can just kind of ignore the other headline that was really the catalyst for this ex-girlfriend, Amanda, coming forward. So, and yeah, I'm with you with the post. I think it would have meant a lot more to hear him say those words as opposed to them just being typed out, a video message, something. But maybe we'll get an interview from him at another point. I'm wondering if him not being part of, these press has a lot to do with Rachel not ending up with people, so she doesn't look like the third wheel, in these interviews with the three of them. But we'll see. Yeah. But moving on to what was the final segment of After the Final Rose, we have our next Bachelor, Rachel's third pick, Zach Shallcross. So we watched Zach ultimately send himself home after fantasy suites and left the show in tears. And then last week, Variety revealed that ABC had their eyes on Zach for their next lead. So it was really no surprise that when Jesse Palmer said the next Bachelor was there, that Zach walked on stage. However, despite the live audience cheering for him, Twitter and Bachelor Nation as a whole had a very different opinion. So one tweet said, "My face when they officially announced Zach as the Bachelor," with a photo of Kanye West looking very bored and annoyed. And then another tweet said, "Zach seems nice, but is so incredibly boring. Lord," paired with a photo of this zoned out kid, again, like wide-eyed and just kind of over it. So clearly the overwhelming reaction online was negative, and many fans are claiming that Zach is too boring to be a lead. But I would also say that sometimes, from a different perspective, our most quote unquote boring leads allow the women to then be more dramatic, more chaotic. And in that way, it results in an even more fun season. So are you taking Twitter's side of this? Are you thinking he's a boring pick? Are you potentially seeing, what ABC saw in him as a lead? Where do you stand on Zach as our next Bachelor?
Yeah, I agree with what you just said about, Bachelor leads sometimes are boring. I mean, let's think about the past, Bachelors we've had. We had Clayton, kind of boring. We had Pilot Pete, kind of boring. We had Matt James, kind of a little boring. I don't know. I think sometimes it works. Even like Nick V is not boring, but he's more kind of laid back and chill. So it does give room for the cast of women to take the center stage. And I think that's kind of the point. And so I don't know. I don't agree with Twitter. I mean, I think it's because I'm in a space with Bachelor Nation, with the Bachelor franchise, where I don't really expect a whole lot out of them. And when picking a lead, I don't expect for them to choose the lead everyone is screaming for. They just don't. So I think out of all the guys in this cast left over, besides Nate, I think Nate would have been a great pick over Zach, but apparently he said no, or maybe, the things that came out about his ex were kind of ruined his chances with that. But I think out of all the guys, the way Zach left the show, him deciding to stand up for himself in that situation, specific situation with Rachel, definitely made me kind of a fan a little bit of Zach. And I think he's shown also, some wisdom and some emotional maturity, some thoughtfulness. And I think those are actually good qualities for a lead. Yeah, is he boring? Sure. But leads are often boring. I don't think that's the end of the world, to be honest. And meeting his 5 women I didn't think it was going to be as fun as it was, but to me, I kind of had fun. And his little interaction with Brianna was really cute. Her getting the rose, I was rooting for her. So it made me kind of excited for his season, to be honest. I'm not against it. I'm kind of like, okay, let's see.
I think that's all we can hope for is just people being open and potentially optimistic on what we're going to see. I'm with you. I enjoyed the live kind of voting, tweeting aspect of it. I love Brianna, the Polaroid. Like, she was owning it, the sticking it back in his little pocket. I was like, girl, get it.
So cute.
So I'm very excited to see her and the rest of the women come January. But we got Bachelor in Paradise in between that premieres next week. So I'm sure we'll be back with even more news next week. But that is everything we have for you guys right now for the Bachelor headlines of this week. We want to know your thoughts on everything we discussed down in the comments below. What are you thinking about Zach? Do you think Rachel and Aven will actually try a relationship? Let us know. And before you go, make sure to like this video and subscribe to our channel so you never miss out on any future videos. I'm your host, Allison Van Dam, joined today by Kayla Thompson. Our social handles are on the screen right now. If you want to come give us a follow, come say hello. Thank you guys so much for watching, and we'll see you in the next one. Bye.